Now we give, everybody give a hand for Dr. Andrew Doan.
Thank you, Francis. Okay, kids, how many kids had their parents drag them here? How many kids love video games? Minecraft? Clash of Clans? League of Legends? Yeah. Dota 2? World of Warcraft? No. Okay, so if you guys pay attention, okay, so who wants to be winners? Who like to win? Who like to win? Winners? Okay. If you guys promise to pay attention, and I'll make this fun, you can ask questions because, you know, some of you already had the first talk, but if you guys pay attention, I will promise to give you advice on how to win in life. Deal? Guaranteed. Okay, good. So I'm an active duty officer. I just have to have this disclaimer. So anything I say reflects my own opinion. So if you're angry that your parents brought you here, don't send President Obama or the White House any hate mail. I'm here to represent myself. So you can actually just send me email. Okay, so this is my Facebook page. And I'm going to do a video selfie today. And we're going to do, you guys are going to cheer. And then I want to see how many likes we can get on my Facebook page. I almost have about 74,000 fans on my Facebook page. So let's see if we can get like a bunch of likes. So I was in Minnesota and I was speaking out to a Vietnamese cultural camp. These were kids who were adopted by American families. And so we did like a video shout. And so that's how many views we got within just the time that I gave the talk. So I'm gonna do this. Okay? We're gonna do it together, okay? So when I say this, let's cheer, you guys are gonna cheer, okay? All right, I need a selfie stick, that would be help. Okay, so this is Dr. Doan. I'm in Oregon today, and we're speaking on internet gaming and how to succeed here in the digital age. Woohoo, let's go, guys! Yeah, good job. Yeah, I love it. All right, so some of my background, you know, I had 6 full-ride scholarships at med school. I had like a scholarship to Johns Hopkins, Columbia, Mount Sinai for the MD PhD program. And, but I tell you that, not to brag, but I tell you that because even a guy like me can get trapped into a world of bad behaviors. And so I got trapped into games and gaming addiction. So I was playing like 50 to 100 hours a week of gaming for over 10 years. It got so bad, I was clicking the mouse 20,000 hours. I had carpal tunnel from this finger all the way up to my elbow. I had like high blood pressure. I was over 200 pounds. I was a 3-sports letterman in high school. I was playing football, baseball, and wrestle. But when I was playing games, I just blew up and even had stretch marks. I remember, you know, vividly, I took off my shirt and I had stretch marks because I wouldn't move and play the games. And my wife thought that would be enough for me to stop playing games, but I kept on playing. It was not until finally I realized that my medical career was in jeopardy because of my carpal tunnel, and the year before I became an ophthalmologist. I trained in ophthalmology, which is eye surgery, at the University of Iowa. I was playing so much games. I was playing Warcraft 3 at the time. That's before League of Legends, so you know, Warcraft 3. So I was playing Warcraft 3, the same maps over and over and over again. And then I get bored, and then I play random, you know, characters, right? So am I going to be a night elf, or an orc, or a human? You know what I mean? So then it basically became more stimulating. I played so much that I didn't study for my United States licensing medical examination, which is the 3rd step, because there's 3 steps to become a doctor, which is step 1, step 2, step 3. I flunked my step 3. I had literally 6 months left to pass step 3. Otherwise, I almost did not become an ophthalmologist. So I was smart enough to stop playing for a little bit, study, pass that, and then went right into eye surgery. But literally, it was the carpal tunnel that got me to wake up and say, I need to quit this. And here, this is my son at 6 months. You know, I had strained relationships with my son today because I did not spend enough time with him, but I spent all my time playing games online. You know, I love games like Diablo, you know, games like World of Warcraft. I love the role-playing games, the RPGs, especially the multiplayer MMORPGs. So what I want to embark on you is that gaming is like a drug, okay? So if I give you a medication, it changes your blood pressure. There's no difference if you look at it and it changes your blood pressure. Did you know that the gaming companies can actually hook you up, and if you play violent video games, within 20 minutes of play, your blood pressure can go up to 180 systolic over 120 diastolic? Is that amazing? Because your body is responding to the stimuli of the eyes and the sound. If we add immersive sound to the games, meaning that if you add sound to the gameplay, your cortisol levels from your adrenal glands increase. And so the gaming companies are hiring neurobiologists, psychologists, and scientists to hook people up to titrate the game to get a better experience. So if you really like games, you should be studying how to be a psychologist, a scientist, and working for the game industry and titrating it for the benefit, right? And not for the detriment of people. But because of the changes in your body, you also get like improved hand-eye coordination. So for example, you know, surgeons who play video games, they're better surgeons than surgeons that don't play video games. That's based on medical research. So for me, being an eye surgeon is like playing asteroids. When I do eye surgery, for example, I split the lens in half, and then I split the lens in a quarter, and then an eighth. The machine is called a phacoemulsification machine. It makes sounds like an arcade game. So literally, I have a foot pedal, and I push on the foot pedal, and it shoots these sound waves, and it goes and it breaks up the lens. And then if it occludes, you hear this bing, 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 bing. It sounds like a pinball machine. So for me, playing games actually helped me be a better surgeon. My mind worked faster, I see the pieces, but you know the best thing about this is that when I play games, I actually don't get paid, but when I'm an eye surgeon, I get paid a lot of money doing eye surgery. So keep that in mind. Be very careful about how you spend your time. And then the games also reduce anxiety and depression, enhances memory skills. It's a great training tool. It solves the science problems. This is fascinating. This was published in the journal Science. So there is a protein called the simian HIV virus particle. 10 years of biochemistry, scientists in the lab could not figure out how that protein folded, but they released it as a game called Folded, a multiplayer online game called Folded, and said, okay, you gamers play and tweak the protein structure to its lowest energy state and see how it folded. You know how long it took the gamers worldwide to solve that science problem? 2 weeks. How you know about that? You read that article, didn't you? That's smart. You got it. 2 weeks. It took the gamers 2 weeks to solve a science problem that 10 years of biomedical research failed to do. Is that crazy? That's incredible. And then it also helps with post-traumatic stress disorder. So we're using video games for people coming back from war with trauma from war, and we let them play video games and we can talk them through it. Okay, you can walk through this doorway, you're going to be okay, you're going to feel your blood pressure go up. It's called immersion therapy. We can actually use virtual reality gaming to help them deal with their mental damage from war. And then we also use it for pain management. So this is a burn victim. Anybody here has a burn before? Anybody got a burn? You know, like burn yourself? It hurts, right? But when this guy plays a game called Snow World, where he throws snowballs at penguins and objects in the game, he actually does not feel any pain. And the nurses can actually scrub the burns off his wounds while he's playing the game. And when they asked him, is it fun? He says, it's a lot of fun. So it's actually a very good digital painkiller, and I'm going to show you a video of the nurse doing that.
Science Central.
I was on fire. I couldn't see to unbuckle my seatbelt or open the door. I believe my guardian angel just took me out of the truck.
First Lieutenant Samuel Brown survived an attack on his Humvee in southern Afghanistan, but he would then have to endure rounds of surgery, skin grafts, and painful skin stretching.
This is a battle that's going to take years to get back to being how it was prior to this.
But while Brown's body fights that battle, Virtual reality technology lets his brain enjoy hurling snowballs to the music of Paul Simon. University of Washington researchers Hunter Hoffman and David Patterson designed the virtual reality game Snow World to occupy burn patients' minds during painful wound cleaning or physical therapy.
Snow World's the opposite of fire. Snowy, cold. It's supposed to cancel out and help distract them from remembering their original injury.
Their previous research showed that not only do patients report less pain in Snow World, MRI scans show it reduces the brain's pain signals. Brown's doctors see real improvement.
What we saw was marked improvement in the range of motion that we were able to achieve, and most importantly, an increased level of comfort.
As published in the Journal of Cybertherapy and Rehabilitation, the soldiers even report a fun quotient.
I spent some time growing up out in Colorado skiing during the winters and stuff, so, if anything, it sort of brings back some of those memories.
A cool escape for a war hero putting the pieces back together. Brad Cloza, Science Central News.
So it's amazing that he likes to play the game with Paul Simon while he was getting his treatments. Did you know that, like I said, if you just add music in, it actually changes the hormonal levels. So what's happening in your body when you play these games are hormones and chemicals are being released into your bloodstream. So it helps you to not feel pain, one, but the game can also make you feel excited, it can make you feel sad, it can make you feel happy. So these games can play with your hormones in a different way depending on what you're looking at. So therefore, if you play too much, you can develop addiction. You can develop sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation is huge because when I was playing 50 to 100 hours a week, I only slept 2 to 3 hours a night. So I was always chronically tired. I was never feeling rested. I fell asleep during medical school classes. They were easy. You didn't have to pay attention. But my point is that, have you guys gone to school after a long night of gaming and it was hard to stay up in school? Anybody ever had that problem? No. Yeah, so I had that problem. So sleep deprivation is huge. And then what happens is you also develop rage and anger. And then eventually if you play too much, you get depression, anxiety, and even antisocial behaviors. The ultimate test is actually sending people off to college because that's where people fail to achieve their potential. They're failing out of college. And then in extreme cases, the severe addicts, you're getting family abuse and extreme violent behaviors. So what I tell people is that this is a cycle of addiction, okay? It all starts with emotional stress. So that means, the pressure that you have in your family, or the pressures that your family places on you, or peer pressure, or social pressure. So when I grew up, I came over from Vietnam in 1995. So I was like only 4 years old. But at that time, there was a movie called 16 Candles. You guys remember 16 Candles? Okay, let's watch a clip from 16 Candles.
What's happening, hot stuff?
His name is Long Duck Dong. What? Long Duck Dong. He came down with Grandma and Grandpa Baker. He's an exchange student that's living with them.
Yeah, well, he's totally bizarre.
He is not. He is a very sweet boy.
I just hope you burn the sheets and mattresses after he leaves.
I don't suppose it makes any difference to you, but there's a very weird Chinese guy up in Mike's room.
All right, so those are the kind of movies I grew up with. When I looked in the mirror, I did not like that I was Vietnamese. And I probably don't even look Vietnamese anymore because I'm like down in Southern California, so I'm really dark. And so it was not even, how your parents, I don't know about your parents, but my mom was like, always cover up, you're getting too dark, you're gonna look like an African American, right? But I love sports, so I'm always out there without my shirt on, getting darker and darker on purpose just to make her angry, right? So that added to the emotional stress in my life and her life. But my name used to be Phung Duc Doan, and you know how in Vietnam they changed the middle name and not the first name? So my brother was Phung Ding Dong. Okay, Phung Ding Dong and Phung Duc Dong, right? So I was the Long Duc Dong of the neighborhood. And so I'd be trying to fit in as an Asian in all these white neighborhoods. And I grew up here in Portland. And then I grew up in Beaverton, Oregon. So I started playing baseball. So I want to play all American sports, right? I didn't want to play running because running wasn't popular. I didn't want to run. I didn't want to play like, unpopular sports. I had to wrestle, play football, and basically wrestle. And can you imagine a Vietnamese kid? I was skinny, scrawny, right? I mean, I'm not that big, trying to play football. But I was really good at baseball. So I would get down in shortstop position, and all my friends, who were supposed to be my friends, right, the white kids, they would go, did you eat your rice today? Rice patty. And it's funny. It's okay. You can laugh. And so, but that added to more of my emotional stress. And then my dad, being an immigrant, you know how immigrants are very frugal? Okay? So I grew up in Oregon, and they would not turn on the heat in the winter. Okay? So I knew there was a problem when I could write my name because the frost was inside the house on the window. Okay? So on the inside of the house, it was so frosty because they didn't turn on the heat. So my dad was very frugal. And when I was playing baseball, he got some pie pans. This is the regular pie pans, because the opposing team would have a little triangle, and every time they do a perfect play, they go ding, 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 ding with the little triangle. So my dad was like so irritated with that, he took pie pans until he'd stand on the top of the bleachers, and he would take the pie pans and clang them. Clang, clang, clang. Number one base runner, you can do it. I mean, this is, so what I'm trying to share with you, that everyone has a Phong Duc Doan situation in your lives. You see what I'm saying? It might be that you're not wearing the right clothes, or your parents don't have the right job, or you're in the wrong social economic class, or you're not looking the same as someone close to you. Do you see what I'm saying? We all deal with emotional stress. But unless we deal with this emotional stress, it doesn't stop here. Because what happens is that we have these emotional triggers. It leads to a craving for something to relieve the pain. So we either use drugs and alcohol to relieve the pain, or we use behaviors. And so I want you to look at the digital devices as like a drug. So you can actually use this for good, but you can also use it for bad. If you use it for bad, it leads to now problems. And because you have problems in your life, because your grades are dropping, your relationships with your parents are suffering, or you're not attached to your friends anymore, that leads to now problems. Or if you're on Facebook, for example, and people start to gossip and bully you, because that's what social media allows people to do, that adds additional stress to your life. That leads to more emotional triggers, and you repeat itself over and over. But beware, every time you repeat one cycle, it's like laying down a road on your mind, in your mind. Because your mind physically makes connections and changes in the mind as you repeat a behavior. So what happens is, once you repeat this behavior over and over and over again, it's like having a superhighway in your mind for that addictive tendency. Does that make sense, kids? So how do you break this emotional trigger? You have to learn how to deal with it. For me, I found the Lord. God helped me deal with emotional triggers. It helped me deal with being comfortable of being Vietnamese and having a name that's Phong Duc Doan, and to be a representative for who I am and for God's kingdom. Does that make sense? So I'm going to run through the slide real quick, okay? Because it's really complicated, and I ran through with your parents already. The bottom line is that what you have to realize is that the brain, when it's stressed, actually secretes hormones through this pathway. The brain, through the glands in your body, help you to have hormones that help you deal with stress. The problem is when you are chronically stressed, chronically worried, chronically feeling pressure in your life, and you don't know how to deal with it, this whole system will turn off by itself. But as this system turns off, the problem is if this system turns off, it's called a dysregulated HPA response. In this dysregulated HPA response, you will lose sleep, and there's also evidence that you could even develop mental illnesses. So you have to be very careful, because at this state, this is when a person will actually seek out activities to replace those hormones. because there's evidence to show that drugs, alcohol, and gambling stimulates in the mind more of the hormones you need to feel healthy, resilient, and normal. This is the addiction cycle. You burn the system out, you drive the system. This is why you see the movie stars, you know, and music industry. They're very successful. They're on tour. They're getting huge rushes of adrenaline and dopamine. What do? They turn to drugs and alcohol to drive it more. And they have to use more and more to drive that system. As they drive that system, they actually can overdose and actually have a lot of problems. So these are MRI scans from Asia of gaming addicts. And when you show a gaming addict footage of the games they like to play, their brain lights up in the prefrontal dopamine system exactly like one who's addicted to drugs and alcohol. It's the same mechanism in the brain. Okay, so I heard somebody say it's boring. I'm not going to point out who said it's boring. But when this game was made in 1970, this was the bomb. This was the game. Okay? This game was the thing that got people excited. Parents, anybody remember Pong? Okay. So when you do research on this, if you have two people playing Pong together, testosterone levels up, cortisol's up. This is what games used to be like and what turned people on, okay? But this is what turned you guys on these days.
As well as using the Mutilist to try to snipe away at this orbital command. It is burning down now. He's going to try to pull the SCVs to repair. But how much does Lucifer have to stop this? He is going to be able to shove this back for now. A force at the same time moving down the center of the field. And he's going to start to poke away at this. The melee's getting out of these Marines. They're clumped up. The Widowmine's not burrowed. He will be able to retreat since he's not on creep. But Lucifer losing even more of his Widowmines. He needs to keep those high-power units alive. That's right. It looks like the dog gets hit to play as he moves into.
Okay, that's a clip from the Professional Gaming League. Okay, so the Professional Gaming League is a legitimate career. I'm not anti-games. So if you're blessed, if the Lord has blessed you with the ability to have insane skills like this, to play games like this, Professional Gaming League is actually a viable career. But you know how many people make $100,000 or more in the Professional Gaming League? About 100 people. So the ratio, your chances of becoming a professional gamer is 1 in 6 million to 10 million gamers. What is your chance of becoming a medical doctor to make several fold more of that on average? You know? 1 to 400. How about if you want to be a lawyer? It's like 1 to 50 or something like that, because there's tons of lawyers. But my point on this is that Professional Gaming League is a legitimate career. But if you set your goals to that and you're not good enough to be the professional gamer, and you get into an addictive cycle, you're headed down a very difficult path for a viable career. You're better off learning how to play games in moderation, like this game, for 30 minutes a day and leave it, and study to be a doctor. Rather than trying to tell your parents you're going to be a game creator or a professional gamer. Because if you truly want to be a game creator, you need to practice programming and software language, right? So I've met a lot of gamers who want to be game makers, but they don't know anything about software design or the actual languages to create those games. They spend more time playing the games than actually creating the games. You see what I'm saying? So if you truly want to be a game maker, I actually met a lot of game makers. They don't play a lot of games anymore because they have to design them. But my point about showing you this clip is that your body needs more and more stimulus just to stay entertained. And that's the problem with these games. They're just like drugs. Okay, so what happens when you remove kids from their games? Does this look familiar?
No! 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 I know what you're trying to do!
Just do it once again.
No!
I'm just gonna bite.
No!
I'm just gonna bite. What's you gonna bite? Quit biting me. Oh shit, monsters!
Ah! No! 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 Get the camera away from my face, you idiotic fool!
Put this fist in your face.
Parish! I shall ruin that camera! And then I'll freaking can beat all you.
All right, so this is what's great about this not being an official clinical diagnosis in the mental health books yet, is that people think it's funny. They think this is all funny and games, and they film this and put it on YouTube. So you can actually screen YouTube for the pathology that exists out there, okay? But my point about this is that, does this ring a bell? Does anybody ever feel this way when your parents tell you not to play games anymore? How about parents? You see your kids doing this? Yeah. I see, yeah, I see nods in the head, yeah. So remember, they're hormones. When you play games, your hormones in your body are flowing. The only thing you're doing is pushing a button. So when people take you away from the games, literally the hormones, you gotta burn them. So what I recommend doing is that if you're gonna play games for half an hour and then work out for the next half hour. Do push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, or run around the neighborhood. Don't just sit in front of the computer for hours and hours and hours. Combine it with physical activity. And also, if you're gonna play games with your parents. Don't play by yourself. I mean, this kid is losing all ability to act socially. So let me ask you this. Would you want to meet this kid in a dark alley when he's 18 years old? Yeah, it's obvious there, right? Yeah. Okay, so these are extreme cases, and I know there's young people here, but Francis asked me to talk about this because this is real. There's kids who are committing suicide over gaming, okay? There is a New Mexico mom who played games, World of Warcraft, for 15 hours a day, neglected her baby. Her baby starved to death. She's now in prison because she was a gaming addict. Another mom in Jacksonville actually hurt her baby so bad, she's in prison now too. And you remember the pain? How you don't feel pain while you play games? We just had another gamer's death recently, and there's multiple cases like this. This is one of the first ones, but that's reported by the news, but there's a lot of them. So when you're playing games and you don't feel the pain, you know, in your legs, the numbness, you're actually developing blood clots from not moving. So this guy plays Xbox for 10 hours a day, gets a blood clot in his lower extremity, then he gets up to go to the bathroom or go get something to eat, the blood clot travels to his lung and kills him. These games are like digital painkillers. Just like the burn victim doesn't feel pain when you're scrubbing their burns, people aren't feeling pain of the blood clot in their legs, and they're dying from pulmonary embolism. So really, if you want to prevent that, play for half an hour, run around for half an hour. That will prevent you from getting the blood clots. This college student in Taiwan, parents told him to stop playing games. He goes, no, I need to play games. He douses himself with 2 gallons of gasoline and sets it on fire. And then this, in China, because they play in an internet cafe, this guy plays games so much, he dies and had rigor mortis in front of the computer. All the gamers are so addicted, it took 3 to 4 days before they even noticed there was a dead body next to them. So this is happening all around the world. Just like drug addiction, it can get this bad. So that's why we do this. So there's a study in the New York Times. Actually, it was a study, the New York Times reported on it. So the neuroscientists showed that when people look at their phones, their brain lights up like they're in love. So when you have an iPhone and I show you an iPhone, it actually turns you on. But if I show you my Android and you're an iPhone user, it doesn't elicit the same response. So it's kind of like that experiment from Pavlov. You know, Pavlov fed the dog food and then rung a bell. Remember that? And then pretty soon you just ring the bell and then the dog will salivate without food. So what happens is the games and the phones and the devices are turning your body on, get you excited. You just look at it and your body is already getting excited. And I admit this too. I mean, when I walk into Best Buy, I get excited. I mean, I run right to the game section to see where what the new games are, the new devices, right? So you have to be careful where you pair your love response. So keep in mind that these devices are also delivery of social interactions like Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Kik, Twitter, Kinder. Now Snapchat, anybody use Snapchat? Okay, you should not have Snapchat. Okay, the only function for Snapchat is to take pictures of yourself and send it to other people so that it disappears. And I'm meaning pictures that are inappropriate. Okay, 47% of teenagers are taking inappropriate pictures of themselves and sending it to other teens. So the reason why people do that is because it's exciting. See, when I grew up, I had to go and meet somebody and ask them out. Now I can text them, will you do this with me? And I do that with 10 other people, and then 10 other people will reply back, yes or no, and that gives you excitation. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy's going to go out with me, or I can't believe he'll kiss me, or I can't believe he'll do this. That turns you on, and that gets you addicted to these apps and these devices. Okay, so the way I explain it is like digital candy versus digital vegetables, right? So when we give you these devices as parents, we expect you to study and do homework on them. But the first thing you want to do is Snapchat, Clash of Clans, and League of Legends and other stuff in Minecraft. That's the struggle, okay? Hi. How old are you? 6.5. Okay, Emily, do you like broccoli? Yeah. If I gave you a choice every day and put a huge plate of your favorite candy in front of a huge plate of broccoli, which would you eat first? Candy. Okay, that's how our minds are worked, so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a fact of life. So this is your brain scan. Who were here in the first talk? So I can, depending on how in-depth, okay. You guys were, okay. So these brains, the bottom line is that your brain matures. Just remember this, your brain matures from back to front. And the front part is the frontal lobe, is your, what they call executive functions. Executive functions is empathy, self-control, reflective thought. This is why we don't see growth and maturity until age 25. The brain is not fully mature until age 25, which is here. My wife says for men it's like more like 40, so it's probably out here, okay? And then hopefully, you know, some guys can mature faster than that because, but you know what's amazing about this is that age 25, this is when insurance companies will give you a break on your car insurance. At age 25 is when the insurance companies will allow you to rent a rental car. So business knows inherently that 25 is when the brain matures. So keep in mind, what you expose yourself to will affect your mind and affect who you are later in life. And you want to do that earlier, hopefully, than later in life. So don't be misled. Bad company will corrupt good character. So what you're playing is a form of keeping company. So what you're feeding in your mind, you should pick very wisely. So here's my analogy for brain development, okay? So if you guys were in my first talk, I can go through this real quick. So remember, all thumb thinking is a serious problem. So all the benefits of gaming is on your thumb. But if you're only spending time on that, you will grow up only good at that. So you will only be good at League of Legends or Minecraft, but you will lack communication skills. You will lack relationships. You will lack empathy, self-control, and you will lack athletic ability. You see my point? In neuroscience, we study something called amblyopia, lazy eye. Anybody know what a lazy eye is? Okay, lazy eye is when the eye kind of deviates out and, you know, people are looking at you, but one eye is like out this way. So what happens is the eye that goes out this way gets turned off in the brain, in the back of the brain. By age 12 or 13, if we don't align the eyes surgically, what happens is the columns in the back of the brain that represents the eye, this is the right eye, left eye, right eye, left eye, right eye. Let's say the right eye gets like, you know, atrophied. Essentially what happens is you get now an atrophied brain that turns off every other column. We already see this in the sensory system. You have a child that blocks, you know, the ear is blocked. That ear or that side will actually turn off in the brain. So my fear is that if you're just playing games and that's all you want to do, by the time you're 13, 18, 20 years old, if you pass those developmental milestones, your brain could also be stuck in that state. It'll be much harder for you to learn how to communicate, develop friendships, and so forth. This makes sense because Malcolm Gladwell, anybody ever read Malcolm Gladwell? The Outliers. How many hours do you need to become an expert in something? Do you guys know? 2? No, 10,000 hours. No, 10,000 hours. So this is from Social Experiment. So what's interesting about this is Malcolm Gladwell says if you were Tiger Woods and you're born with ability to do golf, okay, if you don't practice 10,000 hours like he did, you'll never be a professional golfer. You see my point? You can be born to be a naturally talented pianist, but if you never practice piano playing, you'll never be a pianist. He showed that through his Social Experiment. Every successful athlete, musician, person that we looked up to in society, they had one thing in common: 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of practice is what? 5 years of work, 40 hours a week. If you only spend 20 hours a week, that's 10 years of work. 10 hours a week, 20. 5, 40. You see my point? So you don't have time to waste. Every single hour in your day is important. And it leads to this. And so what I encourage you is that what you feed your brain becomes that. So you don't want to have a chicken brain syndrome where if you're just looking at gaming, violences, and images that you should not be looking at and doing, looking at, you'll learn it, you'll grow up to be a chicken brain. So keep this in mind. Time is very precious. You all have special gifts. If you are addicted to things, you'll never find those gifts. So I'm going to go through real quick how to manage your stress so that you don't get addicted. I'm not saying don't play video games. If you're going to play video games, play it healthy, right? 30 minutes a day, you can walk away from it. Let me repeat that. 30 minutes a day is what you should play. And you should be able to walk away from it. Never play online until you're older, until you're 18, because that's the way you can handle those relationships that you meet online. So keep your mind, your body, and your spirit strong. That's why going to church, youth group, very helpful. Develop good family relationships. Manage your relationships. I would say avoid dating, because dating adds additional stress in your life that you don't need, right? Make sure you do your homework and stay up with your grades, because every single stress that you have in your life will add up to that stress that will lead to addictive behaviors. Make sure you're exercising. You should be exercising at least half an hour to an hour a day. 3 to 4 times a week. That is important. That helps your whole resilience. Make sure you eat plenty of healthy food and nutrition, and make sure you always recheck your personal goals and dreams and make sure that you are headed towards that way. Because if you're not, that adds additional stress to your life. Also, how many people sleep 8 hours or more? Good. You need 8 hours or more of rest, because that also keeps your mind healthy. Okay, so no more than 2 hours. No more than 2 hours total of social media, digital devices, movies, TV, and video games. But video games, I say only 30 minutes to 60 minutes a day. But if you can do less than 2 hours of this is going to help you also. And also turn off your cell phones at night. Did you know that if you leave your cell phones on and you look at your phone, it resets your melatonin. Melatonin is your circadian rhythm. So once you look at your phone, it's harder for you to fall back to sleep because your melatonin cycle thinks you're waking up to a new day. So turn off your phone, and I would even just turn off your phone so that the light doesn't wake you up. Avoid the following: pornography, drugs and alcohol, and other process addictions, gaming and gambling. All this is going to add more stress to your life. The more stress you add to your life, the more you're going to have a risk for breakdown. I mentioned the mind, body, spirit in the first talk, so we can just kind of briefly run through this. Don't be afraid to be bored. I already talked about this in the first talk. You heard about this. You want to be bored because that's when you're the most creative. You want to be bored, so don't be afraid, and just relax, meditate, read on the Word, think about things. Integrity is going to be critical in maintaining your health. When you do what's right, you get happy feelings, right? When you do things that are right, people come up to you and hug you and love you and give you dopamine rushes. When you do something that's wrong, it leads to guilt, stress, less sleep, and breakdowns. What I mean by breakdowns is mental breakdowns. So my father, who was an immigrant here, he was working at Tektronix. When he was about 55 years old, Tektronix was massively laying off people. So he was stressed. He goes, how can I support my family? You know, they're going to fire me. So he had an acoustic neuroma, which is a tumor in his ear. The doctor took it out, and then it caused a little bit of imbalance. But my dad figured out that if he faked his imbalance, he would get Social Security checks from the federal government. So he was faking his imbalance. He would go out and literally pretend like he needs a cane and a wheelchair like this. And then he comes home, he throws the cane away, and goes, "Ah, I'm getting free money, look at this." And then someone told him, "Richard, be careful. They catch you, they will ask all that money back and throw you in federal prison." Well, my dad was in the South Vietnamese Army and also works with the CIA during the time of the Vietnam War. So imagine the worry that bothered him. He lost sleep. He started to crawl around the house like the FBI and CIA were after him. My wife and I were dating at the time, and he would crawl around the house. He's like, shh, they're watching. I literally saw the successful grown man lie and cheat his way to full-blown bipolar disease. He had bipolar disease at the age of 55, and he had to take psychotropic medications. He was in the hospital every year of his life until he passed away. Until I went to medical school, I didn't understand that you don't get bipolar disease at age 55. Bipolar is an age of diagnosis is 20 years old or less, or about 25 or less. So there are papers now to show that if you're dysregulated in your stress, it leads to atypical mental breakdowns and disorders. So I'm not joking here. When you're younger, you can handle more of that, but as you get older, there's a tipping point, and that could make you crack. Okay, so stress management for better health. Keep in mind, integrity keeps you healthy. Addiction is trying to avoid the inevitable, but making things worse, because you're just kicking the can down the road and then dealing with it later, right? Get plenty of sleep. 8 hours a day is what you need, and exercise regularly. I talked about this in the first talk, so let me re-emphasize. Your brain can only handle 150 connections. That's it. So your Facebook friends that are 2,000, you can't manage every relationship. You don't have enough time in the day. You can only manage 150. But you only have enough time during the week to manage 5. So what I want you to do when you go home is write the 5 relationships that you value most. It could be your dad, your mom, it should be, actually I should say, it should be your dad, your mom, and your siblings, and then you pick your other best friends. You need to foster and encourage and grow with those 5 people. If you're not, you need to, because that's what keeps you healthy, happy and joyful in life. Do not let the digital devices replace those friendships, because if you replace these friendships, you have to spend more time with these devices to feel the same type of excitement in your life. And the problem is, the research now shows that if you use Facebook a lot, you tend to be more depressed. They're showing that. If you use Facebook too much, or social media, Instagram, Twitter, all these sites too much, you're going to have more anxiety and other problems. So don't replace real life relationship with this artificial. Now, these are good tools. Don't get me wrong. The reason why I have 74,000 Facebook likes is that I share the gospel online, and I share, my lessons about technology addiction. So I'm able to reach people around the world using technology. So things in moderation and used for educational purposes, these things are very useful, but they're not useful in replacing real relationships. Okay, so where do you focus your goals? Let's finish with this. So this is a mirage. So if you're in the desert, especially in California, we're having serious drought. So if you're in the desert and you're thirsty and you see this mirage, you can run towards mirages all week long and you'll eventually die from exhaustion, right? Because this is a fake goal. You'll never attain water. You never will achieve getting water if you chase a mirage. This is what the digital world will do. It's the biggest lie to get you to run towards things that are not real. You see my point? If you play Call of Duty, for example, everyone runs around with a 5-star general status. 5-star general. So in real life, you know how many 5-star generals there are? 1. That's right, 1. In the state of war, there's only 1 5-star general who's the general of all the fighting troops. But in Call of Duty, everyone is a 5-star general. You see the lie? So you think you're so good at Call of Duty, but everyone is made to think they're good at Call of Duty because that's how the game companies make the money. Otherwise, if they made you feel you're not good at Call of Duty, you would not buy the game. So chase for things that are real. This is Mount Everest. People want to climb Mount Everest because it's a real goal. But once you climb it, it's an accomplishment. You did it. Okay, so these are my links. If you want to read my book, it's going to be free next week. So you can go to Amazon and you can download it on Kindle for free, starting on Monday through Friday. And if you just want to email me, I will also email you my book as well and my research articles. But that's what I want to end with, is that your lives, you all bestow special gifts and special talents. But if you waste your time in the digital world, it will be very difficult to achieve and manifest those special gifts that God has bestowed on you. Thanks for your attention. You guys are great.